Hello and happy Monday, everyone. Happy Monday. Thank you so very much for tuning in to 98.3 FM, The Life. You're listening to Bacon Bits with Master Happiness. And of course, I'm your host, Marty Jalove. I come at you every single Monday night at 7 o'clock to talk about your job, your career, your vision made clear, the skills that you hone for the business that you own, the ups and downs, the smiles and frowns, where you're at and where you're bound. If you miss any of today's episode or any of the episodes, tune into the podcast Bacon Bits with Master Happiness anywhere you listen to podcasts for the recorded episode. As you know, every Monday, I'm on a quest to bring you the industry best, and it doesn't get any better than these two that are in the studio. My boys, Nate and Luke. Luke and Nate, lads, say hello to the world.
Hello to the world.
Luke, you do that every time, and it just gets funnier and funnier.
You know it. You know it. So, as you guys know, we talk about every month now. It's always the second Monday of the month. We talk about the legends of sales from the book, The Legends of Sales. All right.
What a great book, might I say.
Thank you.
A riveting read, cover to cover.
You know it. And so today we're going to be talking about someone special, someone you wouldn't think necessarily would appear in a book called The Legends of Sales. And it is, of course, Benjamin Franklin. What page is he on there, Nate?
Page 73, as always.
There you go. You're absolutely right. Here, pass it around in case Nate actually wants to read it. Okay. So Luke's quickly reading it, understanding, didn't know exactly who Benjamin Franklin was. So, So one of the things is that Benjamin Franklin obviously was one of the forefathers, right?
Founding fathers.
Founding fathers, not one of the forefathers, right?
No,
There's
we're
a
more than
difference.
four.
There is a difference. What is the difference between the forefathers and the founding fathers?
The founding fathers implies that it's specifically the group that founded America. Forefathers is just a generic term, which means just people who came before us.
That is so many fathers. That's like at least 7.
I know.
That's a lot of fathers, right?
I don't even have 4 mothers.
Yeah.
Close, though.
Pretty close. So Benjamin Franklin. So I just want to get, before we jump into this, why do you guys think we would pick Benjamin Franklin, or why would I pick Benjamin Franklin as one of these legends of sales? This idea of what can we learn from this guy, what could leaders learn from him, salespeople, marketing people, what could we all learn from that? What's your gut reaction on this? Because when I chose him, what did you think when you thought of Ben Franklin?
Well, Benjamin Franklin, I think what the first fact a lot of people learn about him is, despite him being, I think, one of the classic figures of this era.
Yeah.
We hear about George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin.
Yep.
Not a president, so I feel like that always throws people off. He was special in that early era of America. He was an elder statesman figure. He was kind of the first one within America. So he was kept around because he was so universally respected. So beloved. So he was seen as something of an arbitrator, something of like a figure to look up to and respect among the founding fathers.
Luke, and why do you think that he was that? Because I got a pretty good answer for you.
Because he was a legend of sales?
Because he was the legend of sales, but also because he mastered the art of connection.
There you go. Oh. Wow. There you go. Nice. Aren't you glad I passed the book down that way?
That's right. Quick skim, and we're in business, baby.
It was beautiful. But you know what? You think about this, the guy, there's got to be something special about him. I'm learning this, I'm flipping back and forth to 3 different cameras here, is that he made it to the $100 bill, right? I mean, you think about
stuff.
George Washington's on the $1 bill. Mm-hmm. Lincoln is on the $5 bill. You got Jackson on the 20.
Do you know who's on the 50?
I'm going to go with, it was, I was going to say Franklin. It's not Franklin. It's Grant.
Yes, very good.
Ulysses S. Grant.
Yeah, you know it. So they put Ben Franklin on the 100. So when it comes to sales, he was the one bringing in the big bucks.
That's right.
Right. You like that, huh? So for those of you who've never tuned into the show before, aside from shame on you, you should definitely tune in on a regular basis.
What have you been doing on your Monday nights?
Yeah,
You're not listening to 98.3 Life, Bacon Bits with Marty Jalove.
You got to come here just to see the matching shirts, if nothing else. That's right. So what we do is we talk about many different things. We talk about business. I get a lot of small business people come in. We do general interviews. But one of my favorite days of the month is the second Monday of every month, where I talk with these guys about the legends of sales. And so what we end up doing is use something special as a loose outline. Now, we call the show Bacon Bits because obviously everything bacon touches becomes just a little bit better. So for the show, we do our acronym BACON, but we're not talking about the bacon for chewing.
Oh, no, Marty. We're talking about the bacon for doing.
Thank you, Nate. Thank you. It's beautiful. You only have 2 jobs the entire show, Nate. Knowing what page the guy is on and saying that line, and you do them spectacularly.
That's it.
That's all right. So you're right. So we use the acronym BACON to talk a little bit about whether it's the figure we're talking about or the subject matter we're talking about. So today is B for Benjamin Franklin. We're going to talk about build your brand relentlessly. Okay. A is author and irresistible offer. And we're going to get into this because we're going to talk about what he stood for, what he did, some of the great feats that he accomplished. C is create a community. And these same things that he did, you can use in your own business, in your own career. O is going to be observe and optimize everything. This is really big. And N is nurture your network. All right. So we're going to get into there. And I know, Luke, you were looking at this. You're kind of a little upset because you were probably thinking there was going to be some other cool thing, especially for the letter B.
Yeah, I was really hoping you'd say bifocals.
Yes. Why would I say bifocals?
Why Benjamin Franklin invented the bifocal glasses.
Yeah, there you go. I think that is some cool stuff. Just the idea here is just think about that, is that the term polymath, that Ben Franklin was a polymath. In other words, his knowledge or his interest in things just spans so many different directions. He was an inventor, an avid reader. He was a writer. I believe he was the first one, believe it or not, and I didn't check into this, but he was the first cartoonist. Okay, he created a cartoon called the Little Yellow, or the Boy in the Yellow Jacket, something like that, in one of the first newspapers ever created in the United States that Ben Franklin edited and published. Okay, so he did all kinds of stuff. He just went out in every single direction. That's why we get into this observing and learning, so he could move in different directions and just try a little bit of everything. Okay. The other thing is, how many years of schooling do you think, of real, authentic schooling, do you think this guy went through?
So,
if you were to guess,
I mean, here, let's collaborate. Let's collaborate on this, Nate. You figure it's got to be a low amount or a high amount?
I'm going with a low amount.
Okay.
Right? Because they say geniuses spend less time in traditional schooling because their minds are just exploding with ideas. And they just can't be contained.
I like this.
I'm going to say, what would be the equivalent of 5th grade nowadays?
Well, that would be 5 years. We could just. I
don't know.
No, right?
Because
Are you saying like educational level is what? Are you trying to?
The show is only.
I guess you're right. Yeah,
the show is only an hour.
6 years.
Okay.
How to do math? I'm married to a former teacher.
I didn't mean to. How about this? Yes. You say one, I say one. We'll see who's closer.
Okay, I say 5th grade.
I'm gonna say he did even less. I'm gonna say he did like maybe 2 years.
Bam! It's 2 years.
Wow.
2 years of formal education. Wow! I don't know where you pulled that one out of.
Yeah. Nobody likes to suck up, Luke.
Actually, I do.
Yeah.
I do. As long as you're really good at it, then you go for it. So Luke's probably reading some notes in front of him, but that's all right. It worked out.
No, I'm seeing girls volleyball.
I can see his keyboard. He has nothing. This is off the hip.
You can change that panel of what you're looking at.
I have the book, The Legend of Sales, in front of me, and I've consulted it 0 times.
All right. But it gives you some idea of the stature that he grew to, the stuff that he did for this country with only 2 years of formal education, only 2 years. Early on, I think his father ran a soap factory, but he saw that Benjamin Franklin really loved reading. So he told him to go and work for his uncle at a print shop where, he got enthralled by the idea of printing and wanted to read everything he could. And he spent all his extra money buying books just to read and learn stuff like that. So the guy was just really interested in growing himself. Okay. And I think that in itself is the first thing that we can learn as salespeople, as marketing people, as leaders, as business owners, is what are you doing on a regular basis to grow? It's so easy to just sit back and collect a paycheck or, do the least possible. Whereas this guy said, I'm going to do the most possible. He really, truly believed that there wasn't enough hours in the day to survive. So he really wanted to do more and more and more. And this guy, he was not born into royalty. It wasn't a fancy family. He was one of 17 children. Yeah. So, they didn't have cable TV at that house. So one of 17 children. And yet he still stood out. He said, I want to go out and do stuff. I want to learn stuff and I want to grow. And you just think about that, just that alone. And somehow you do enough to make it to the $100 bill. Right. So the guy was absolutely amazing. I've got some other stuff in here that he's famous for, but I want to get into this whole idea of the bacon. I want to jump into it right away. And that is this B, build, your brand relentlessly. Now, look at us. We're all wearing the same shirts. This is the way to do it. You're building the brand. People know what we're talking about. This is Bacon Bits with Master Happiness, where we're talking about business all the time. I'm a business coach, and you two continue to add the right amount of levity, curiosity, and knowledge to the show. So I appreciate you guys coming on a regular basis. No comment on that one? Wow. Okay.
And we we have fun too, Marty.
All right, I agree. You do appreciate us.
All right.
Luke, you card.
So when we talk about building your brand relentlessly, because I said he started from nothing, what he realized was he had to network and get to be known. He had to be the person who stood out. All right. So you go through this kind of stuff on a regular basis. And what I want us to do is when you think about a business owner, all right, I want you to share the behind the scenes. What we should do is, this is what I want business owners to do this week, is think about this. Share a behind the scenes photo or story on social media that shows the human side of your business. Okay. He was so good at understanding that we are people, not just businessmen. All right. And that's the first thing we're going to learn from Benjamin Franklin. And this idea of build your brand relentlessly is that you're more than just a brick and mortar. You're more than just a shop. You are so much more than that. Okay. The next part in here is he was the author and Irresistible Offer. I'm going through here. I'm trying to read my notes that I could barely read right here. Luke, before we go into that one, I want to get into the build your own brand. Mm-hmm. Okay. What do you think are some of the businesses that you would say that and Nate, I want you to think about this too, but I'm throwing it by Luke first, is a business that has a very strong brand, but it's also connected to an individual. Someone that like, oh, that's the guy. That guy ties directly to the brand. The brand ties directly to the person.
Whenever I think about a specific individual being connected to a brand, I always think about how Shaq has been hanging out with the General from the General Insurance for the better part of 10 years.
Has it been 10 years, you think?
It feels like it. I'm sure it's a little less.
All right. That's interesting. Out of all of those, I wouldn't have thought that, but you're right. I love this because you're right. Shaq is the spokesperson for many different brands. And because he is such an iconic figure, that's what really, helps raise their imagery.
And he's just so consistently there. I feel like every ad, it's just like they'll do the plot of the ad and then they'll pan over to the right and you'll see Shaq and the General just like spending time together, just watching whatever happens.
Yeah, exactly. Nate, what about you? Anybody that you can think about a brand where you can see it's a human being, a person that's tied to the brand, really like one goes with the other?
I mean, it's kind of it's kind of low hanging fruit, but like Nike Air Jordans.
Oh, that's all right.
I mean,
that's
that
cool.
is, the epitome of the basketball shoe. I know growing up, especially when they were super popular, like you had to have them. And even if you weren't a basketball player, you wanted to have Jordans just to walk around school and, be one of the cool kids and kind of fit in. And
I like that.
For that, it is so solidified that like Nike's brand with Michael Jordan, even though they have so many other sponsors, so many other athletes and everything, just when you think of it, they're synonymous with each other.
That iconic leaping for the net, that silhouette of Michael Jordan holding the ball with legs spread, jumping at the net. Yeah, it's so perfect. Because you tie it and you immediately know you're talking about Nike.
Yep.
Okay.
And when you think about it, a lot of times, if you think of Nike as a brand, one of the people who comes to mind almost immediately is Jordan. Even you aren't even talking about the Jordan brand shoe. It's like
it's
right there.
It's absolutely 100% synonymous. Right. Okay. So the ones I was thinking of, I was going to go on the kind of the funny end, but it was Kentucky Fried Chicken. When you see the Colonel, even though he's long gone,
my $5 Phillip cups will fill you up.
There you go. But to me, the person who's probably the most iconic is going to be Steve Jobs and Apple. Okay. And again, long gone. But when you talk about when you talk about Steve Jobs, you can't do anything but connect him with Apple. All right. And so tremendous. Great. Man, those are all great examples here. All right. So what we have to do is when we're talking about building your brand relentlessly is you've got to live your brand's values. All right. And so any specific person who is going to be the representative for that brand has got to really identify with and really live those values, can't deter away from it. Now, there was another guy who was a spokesperson for a brand and kind of went against the values, and then it kind of like they made sure he disappeared, and that was the Subway guy.
Jared?
I thought in my head, I was like, that can't be who you're about to talk about. But
I'm not going to talk about him anything more than that. But in other words, this is somebody who just didn't necessarily follow the same values that Subway follows.
Grubbed from the internet.
I cannot believe that. I would say like maybe the ShamWow guy. He went to prison, but just for like, I think like tax fraud or something.
Okay. Yeah, it was for something cool.
Yeah.
That was true. All right.
Which maybe that isn't ShamWow's brand. I don't know.
Was it ShamWow or I don't know. See, I don't know. He's not as memorable.
Now, Billy Mays. He was a man of high honor.
Yeah.
And
he didn't go to prison.
We all know.
He died a hero. He died a hero.
If
you ever say Billy Mays did anything wrong.
No, he died a hero. I love it. But then there was, we got another guy coming up in another episode that I just was about to say it. Flip to the book. You'll find him.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
the guy with the guy with the
Ron Popeil. That was it.
Yeah, Ronnie.
Ron Popeil. That I love that look on your face, Luke, as I just turned the camera on you. Ron Popeil was the inventor of the pocket fisherman, right?
You've all heard of it. You've all used it. You all love it.
That was the thing. Ron Popeil was like all these really cool gadgets that were so kooky, but for some reason, the way he sold them, you were like, I got to have it. I got to have it. Okay. So anyway, there's a lot of these. And I think it's really important that you have to live the brand. You have to become of that, because if you do something wrong, if you don't live those values, you can end up hurting the brand. All right. The other thing is you have to learn when it's your brand, you have to show, not just tell. You can't just go out to the world and say, this is what I stand for. This is what I do. You have to actually show them this is it. There's a friend of mine, Joe Janicki, who's always here on the show. He's every fourth Monday here. We talk about a bunch of different subjects. He's one of those guys whose his mentality is always the help first mentality. And he drives that home constantly. And it's 100% all of the time. And he's got a staff that he drives home that idea all the time. You've got to do that. You've got to have the help first attitude. It's not about closing sales. It's helping people. Sales will come second. And he lives up to that, and he demands his people to do that. So he's another guy who lives up to his brand. Okay. The other thing is, lastly, with the brand, is once you choose your brand, you be the leader of that category. All right. Coca-Cola chose, I can't believe I've been having the camera on you the whole time. Coca-Cola chose Santa Claus as their brand ambassador, right? And it's really neat if you read the history of that it was Santa used to have a green suit, and Coca-Cola changed them into the red suit, and he became the brand ambassador, tied directly to that. And this idea of be the visible leader, that nobody can catch up with you. And that's how you own it. That's how you create the brand that you want to do. All right. So Benjamin Franklin, I think, fell into that wholeheartedly. He stood up. He didn't back down from anyone. He was the first person, I think, that signed not only the Constitution, but the Declaration of Independence and a couple of other treaties with other countries. He's like one of the only people who signed like 4 of these different documents. You're like thinking about it.
The word first kind of threw me off. But if you're saying like he's one of the only people who was signing all,
he signed. He not necessarily the first, but he was like the only person to sign all of these. So getting into that, what do you think? What is another amazing thing you guys love or know about Benjamin Franklin? I'm going to throw that out to both of you. See who's going to shout out something here.
Benjamin Franklin, author of the Poor Richard's Almanac.
There you go.
Is the famous thing. One of the first.
What was the Poor Richard's Almanac?
Well, I'm glad you asked.
I'm asking.
It was sort of the colonial person's analogy to a magazine. It was kind of the first magazine in America, where you would just get this. Hold on, I'm getting a I'm getting a
report.
A report.
Yeah. It's snowing in Montana as we speak. No. Go ahead. Tell us more about the almanac.
The Poor Richard's Almanac is. There's nothing on here about the Poor Richard's Almanac.
I didn't say there was. I was giving you something.
It was this essentially it was a widespread paper.
Yes,
that Benjamin Franklin founded. That was for farmers, and it had all of this other stuff. I'm pretty sure that's where the cartoon you were talking about was from. And it was just like this paper that he was able to spread around.
Okay. So he published it. So it was one of the first. That I don't know if that's the one I was talking about, that he then also created the first cartoon in there, the first comic strip. That would be something worth digging into, trying to figure that out. But it was like the Yellow Kid or something like that. Okay. Plus, I gave you a sheet of some other fun facts there. That you could either read those or share some of them with Nate.
Would you like me to do that now, Nate?
Yes, Luke.
Here's a fun fact I'm seeing.
Lay it on me.
Ben is frequently misquoted. You may have heard the phrase "a penny saved is a penny earned" attributed to him. You may have.
I may have.
But he never actually said that.
Son of a gun.
What he did write in Poor Richard's Almanac, which I was just talking about,
right,
is a penny saved.
The almanac for the poor person.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
A penny saved is 2 pence clear. That's the actual quote.
Oh.
So not that much of a difference in meaning, but
no.
I think they just updated the wording so we would understand.
Similar to how the quote, not all that glitters is gold. The actual quote is not all that glisters is gold.
I hate that. What I like about that, though, is that
we've just lost all our listeners.
You just there's the sound of 1,000 radios
going,
being shut off across Lake County.
This is what we're doing.
You think there were that many on?
No, but the thing is like in a penny saved is a penny earned versus whatever Luke just said.
Yes, exactly.
Penny
that
saved
other one,
is 2 pence clear.
Right. It's showing the idea that you just gotta. I lost my knife. Luke said glistened, and it just went out the window right there. Glistle, that's terrible. But no, it's like
no more glistling.
It's if you are investing your money wisely and you're specific with how you spend your money, sometimes taking the obvious route with whatever you put it into might not be the best thing, and it's better to hang on to it and review it.
Okay, I'll buy that. There you go. You saved yourself.
Yeah, that was tough. We circled around twice.
There you go.
And
so this other thing I want to tell you was, did you know that Ben Franklin played several musical instruments? All right.
Did he really?
Including the violin and the harp and the guitar. And he also, this is what's cool because he was an inventor. He invented a glass harmonica. A glass harmonica, which he played by touching the edge of a spinning glass with damp fingers. So he invented that.
Is it really a harmonica?
That's what they said. That's what the Google said. So it's got to be true.
I mean,
all right.
Got to be true.
I don't know enough about harmonicas to argue with you, but that doesn't seem like the same thing. I thought he just formed a glass harmonica.
Which sounded cool until I read the rest of it.
Yeah.
Yes. All right, Luke, you have one more and we'll get back to it.
Well, I just wanted to say, and this actually isn't on the sheet. Okay. We talked about a quote he didn't say. A quote that he did say that is all that is certain in life is death and taxes. That was a
he did say that.
Yes, this was in a letter he wrote to someone. And I think that he's right about that. And I think you can apply that to business. The fact that Benjamin Franklin felt it necessary to say this, that he says that some things are certain, like death, like taxes.
Yes.
The fact that some things will end, the fact that you can't just go through life unmarred, that you will have to secede certain things. But the other part of that is nothing in life is certain but those things.
That's true.
So that means there's plenty of other stuff that you may think like, oh, well, this has to happen. I have to do this. But maybe it's best to keep an open mind.
So we're gonna jump back to the bacon, but I want to jump into this other thing, is that one of the things that made Benjamin Franklin who he is, and if you read his autobiography or skim it like I did, okay, he talks about how he grew and created 13 virtues, 13 things that he said, this is what every young man, any person, I guess, should live by to become a better version of themselves. And it's interesting because he had written 12 of them, and then a friend of his added one more at the end and gave him one more. So it's interesting. So his first one of the 13 is temperance. Eat not to dullness, drink not to elevation. All right. So this idea of it's okay to eat and drink, but just don't overdo it, which I find is interesting because the portraits of him is always kind of a larger man. So he might have liked the virtue, but maybe didn't live true to it. Silence. Speak only what may benefit others or yourself. Avoid trifling conversations. And I really like this one is that goes with that other saying that he didn't say about small minds talk about people, average minds talk about events, great minds talk about ideas. So he was one of those people, I was going to be silent, want to listen, and then only talk when it was appropriate. And I think that's why he got a great following. Okay. This next thing is order. Let all your things have their place. Let each part of your business have its time. You just think about just those immediately. This guy like really wanted order in his life. Everything had to be done a certain way. Now, immediately you start going through and I'm going, I can't disagree with him. I'm not saying I'm going to live by these rules, but they're all good rules.
I think there's a lot of that to say though for people in business and in their own lives. And I look back at, some of my drivers and like if they're running late and we start talking to why are you always late to work? Let's go. You work backwards and it's the steps that they're taking the night before. Well, I didn't make my lunch the night before. So then the morning of I slept a little bit later. Then I had to make my lunch and I was running late. I had to let the dogs out. And then all of a sudden you have this whole chain of events that if you consistently do and have your life in order and everything where it should be, the ability to complete the tasks that you set out for the day are going to happen like every single day.
Yep. I agree with you.
So I really like that. I think there's a really important place to that. And as you're talking to people, and a lot of times with a new startup or a business or something like that, people are all over the boards. They got 1,000 ideas, they got offers, they got whatever they're doing, and there's no consistency, there's no plan. And without that, you see that things start to fall apart.
I like it. Because you know what? As soon as you have an employee, or if you see it in yourself, you're coming late all the time, you're keeping your workplace sloppy, whatever the deal is, you've got to ask yourself, am I making this a priority? Do I think of this as something that's important to me? And if you have employees who are showing up late to meetings all the time, you watch them in the parking lot. If they walk by garbage that's sitting in the parking lot, and they just walk over it as opposed to picking it up, you look at that and that immediately tells you they're not interested in helping the place look better. They're not interested in being a member of this organization. And so it's a telltale sign, might be a telltale sign that they're not prioritizing the business. And that's one thing with looking at employees, but we also have to look at ourselves. Are we prioritizing? And I love that example you gave, Nate, that it ties to it. And if you say, I want to grow with an organization, I want to become a leader in the organization, look at something as simple as that. So he also mentioned resolution, frugality. I'm not going to read all of these. He got into industry, lose no money, be always employed, and something useful. Cut out all unnecessary actions. So I like, it made me think a little bit about you, Luke, when you were talking about how you're trying to stay off of social media and like that. Sure. And I dig that. So I like where your head is going. Sincerity, use no hurtful deceit. Justice, wrong none by doing injury or omitting the benefits that are your duty. Moderation, avoid extremes. Cleanliness, tolerate no uncleanliness in body, clothes, and habitat. Tranquility, be not disturbed. Chastity, rarely use venery, but for health or offspring. Never to dull the senses, weaken, or injure yourself. Okay, so that's interesting. And so those are the 12. After he did this, and he would tell people, this is how you should live your life. These are the things. This is what I do. This is how you should live your life. One of his friends came and said, you should add one more. What do you think it was?
For everything else, there's MasterCards.
So close. It was
for everything else, there's Master Happiness.
There you go. It was humility. They told him, why don't you pick up on humility too? Stop telling us all how to lead our life. So you gotta love that going, all right, fine. It's number 13, humility, which is really important, is just, in other words, I'm going to live my life. I can help guide people, but I'm not going to treat them differently just because they don't follow my set of rules.
But what's interesting is rooted in so many of those is both everything within moderation.
Yes.
And having like a precise, thought out step to everything that you do.
Purpose, right? Yeah.
Plan, purpose, and moderation.
You got it. Isn't it? And it's so simple when you look through that, and it makes you question all these other things we do. And we're like, am I wasting time? All right. So before we go any further, can you believe that the first half's already over? So I'm going to play a couple of little short messages and we'll be right back. So please stay tuned. And welcome back again. Thank you so much for tuning in to 98.3 FM The Life. And you're listening to Bacon Bits with Master Happiness. You've heard the first half of the show and you're still here. Thank you very much. We were just talking about how we went a little off the rails, but we're back in, and we're gonna end this big. The last half an hour, we're gonna cover the rest of the bacon. The B we're talking about with Benjamin Franklin is build your brand relentlessly. Really work with it. If you develop a brand for yourself, your business, etc., create that vision, those values, live by them, stand by them, stand out because of them. All right. A is author an irresistible offer. And this is the kind of guy that Benjamin Franklin was. He did not sit back and wait for things to happen. He went out of his way to make things happen. And so when we're talking about authoring an irresistible offer, I want us as salespeople, leaders, marketers to do this whole thing of focus on the transformation that our products and services do, not on the product itself. Focus on the future, what your customers will become because of your product or your service. That's the first thing you got to do, is that helps create this offer that they want. People don't want to buy a product for the fact that it's a product. They want to buy it for what it's going to do for them. It's going to solve a problem. It's going to give them pleasure. It's going to solve a pain. That's what we want to do, and that's how you're going to sell it. And that's exactly the way this guy thought. The idea of work with bundling your value, bundle it with other things so they feel that they're getting so much more. We talked about this in plenty of episodes in the past. Give them more than they expected, and they will continue to come back. And then also reduce the risk of everything that you offer. Make it so that if I buy something from you, I know that I can maybe get my money back or something. It's an easy return policy, easy to exchange, something like that to eliminate the risk. Franklin's subscription model made a large collection of books accessible. So he was like one of the first to create a library like that it was easy for you to borrow books from him and return them. It was easy for you to want to know Benjamin Franklin. All right. So I want you as a business, before we get into a little more detail here, is review the copy on your main products page. Review how you write, how you promote yourself, and take a look at that first paragraph and focus entirely on what your customer actually desires. Too often what we do is we talk about the features and benefit of our product, and instead take a note out of Benjamin Franklin's book, who's been very famous and very, very successful at these tactics, is what is the customer going to go through, that transformation, that metamorphosis. So Luke, about one of the ways that Benjamin Franklin sold, and it is a technique that they talk about, the Franklin technique, or the Franklin format. And what it's about is most salespeople think of reciprocity. In other words, I'm going to do you a favor. I'm going to be really kind to you and nice to you. And then out of obligation, you feel like you should do something for me. So Benjamin Franklin went with the Benjamin Franklin attitude was, if you didn't like me, let's say for some odd reason, Nate, for some reason, you're my customer and you don't really care for me. You don't trust me. You don't know if you want to do business with me. So the first thing that I would do is I would come to you and ask you to do me a little favor, just a little something. I ask you to do something for me, right? And it tricks your mind because you're sitting here thinking, well, I don't really like you, but it's such a small favor. Sure, I'll do it. And then I can ask you to do a slightly larger favor and a larger favor. And before you know it, in your mind, you are so confused of, do I not like this guy or do I like this guy? And then by the time I'm selling you something and offering you what my wares, it's a completely different story. Because then you're like, yeah, I really like this guy. Obviously, I trust him enough because I did all these other things for him. And there's this story about another statesman that did not like Ben Franklin, right? And just really, Ben needed his approval on something. And the guy had an extensive library of books. So Benjamin Franklin went up to the guy and asked to borrow a first edition beautiful book of his and said, look, I would love to read the first edition book. And the guy was excited about it because he knew he had a great library. Loaned the book to him. He read it, brought it back. The guy was happy. And then from then on, it created this great relationship. And that was the basis of it, is this idea of asking for that favor first, have them do something little, because we're humans. We want to be friendly with other people. Do something little, and you can come back later for something larger and larger. Any comment on that, you guys?
Yeah, and I think the other unspoken benefit of that.
No, you know what? No, you're not, but now you are. Go ahead.
Okay,
it sounded funny. Yeah, there you go. The unspoken benefit.
I think the unspoken benefit of that is then that also displays to this person that you're doing small deals with that, okay, in Benjamin Franklin's case, right, for instance, he's bringing the books back.
Yes,
he's engaging in the books.
Right,
yeah,
right.
He's clearly not going to, he's not just like immediately forgetting about what happened like the second he walks out of that library.
Right.
So even if you don't realize it in the moment, you are slowly realizing, you're like, okay, this is a source of commerce or trade.
Yeah. And I think what's cool is it ends up being that, well, he likes something and I have. He's making me feel needed, right? And necessary. And everyone wants to feel that way. Nate, you got anything over there to add?
You just took it right out of my mouth. I was just going to say, circling back to Mary Kay, who we spoke about on previous episodes, but just that making everybody feel important or needed. And so it's like he had a book that Ben Franklin needed.
Yeah.
Ben Franklin needed something from him. And automatically, because he's like, oh, he needs something from me, he is more inclined to be interested in what Ben has, because it's like, oh, he's coming to me as a knowledgeable source, as a resource or whatever. He feels more important in that moment because he has something that Ben doesn't have. Even if he wasn't interested in the book at all, now all of a sudden Ben needs some from him. And so he's more inclined to be part of the conversation and willing to help him.
Think about that guy who openly was kind of like, I don't really care for Benjamin Franklin. At this point, suddenly turns it around and says, wow, Ben's looking up to me. I have something that he wants, right? And so immediately he put him in a higher status. So you're right. It solidifies that friendship. So it's easier to go back. And whatever the political argument, whatever it was, he ended up getting that guy to kind of side with him, or at least listen to him.
Right.
Because if two people don't get along, one person doesn't like the other person, it's really hard to get them to listen. But once you start that conversation, that connection, you get to them to open their minds. Okay. So that was the author, An Irresistible Offer. And now we get into C, which is create a community. And I think this is really important, is for any business person, any salesperson, any marketer, any leader like that, you create a community amongst your team, right? With salespeople, sometimes what we do is we grab them, we create sales contests so that they work together. Like you maybe divide your sales team into smaller teams so that they create smaller communities. You do something where you challenge your team against the competition. You create that, you solidify the team because we've got a common enemy we're fighting. One of the greatest tactics for selling is this idea of talking about another group. To say, let's say if I was selling a high-end car, you say, you know what, I'm so glad I'm talking to you. I talk to so many people who can't afford cars like this. They come in here just to test drive, just to look, kick the tires, and don't do anything else. I'm so glad to meet you. And that immediately classifies him in a different community, right? And he feels like, oh yeah, I'm in the elite community, right? So you befriend him that way. And that's the negative way to do it. The positive way is you talk about, I love talking with people who really know cars, right? Who really appreciate a fine automobile like this. That's why I'm so glad that you're here. And again, you put him into a group that that customer doesn't want to leave. So it's really important to create groups like that. And that's why there's so many Facebook groups that are successful, because people always want to belong to something. Okay. What about any kind of groups that you guys belong to that you think about going, yeah, I guess that's true. This is one of those things that because I'm part of that group, I think somebody could sell something to the group that I would buy because I'm part of that group. What do you think? I knew I threw that twist at the end.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of any groups. You know me, Dad. I wouldn't become a member of any club that would accept me as a member.
Yeah, all right, Grub.
But I mean, there have certainly been even in the modern sense, there are you'll get multiplayer online video games.
Yep.
And it'll be like, well, my friends are all buying it to play it, and this will be a way for me to spend time with my friends. So I guess I'll have to buy this, even if it's not something I'd buy.
Right. Because you want to be part of it.
Yes.
Yeah, I can dig that.
That fear of missing out or not being part of the in crowd.
Yeah. That's right. Right. What about you, Nate? Any groups that you're in? And it could be anything. It could be your work group, your friends group, anything like that you just feel like you're feeling part of it, so you don't want to lose your clan or your tribe.
Well, I mean, I think with being in the hockey team, it just, if anything, that all the guys were trying out a new type of stick or trying something along those lines, you'd sit there and you go, well, if I've got 3 or 4 guys that are buying this and endorsing it, all of a sudden you don't want to be the guy with the older pair of skates or the less new stick, the latest technology. And everybody kind of talks to each other like, oh man, did you see my shot, the way the puck snaps off my stick, something like that.
There you go.
And so it's kind of that endorsement is part of it because your guys are vouching for it, but also you don't want to be, the odd one out who doesn't have whatever that piece is that they're using.
Right. I like it. So in business, what you're going to do is you're going to talk to customers. It's not just talking to customers, but get your customers to talk to each other. And the first thing you do is you get a lot of testimonials so that they hear each other. There's these other people saying such nice things about my, that brand, that product. The more it's easier for me to trust it because my peer group likes it.
Right.
Okay. Like you were just suggesting, Luke, about a game, a video game. If everyone's got it, all right, you don't even have to read about it. You're like, well, I'm going to hang out. This is my group, so I'll just get the game. So it's really easy to do that. The more I can get people to connect like that. The other thing is identify with the leader in those groups, the person who can give you those referrals, because you go and you find out who the decision makers, who the influencers are in groups, and you get them to be the spokesman for you. Because when they speak up sometimes, what happens is even if the majority is leaning one way, you can get the decision makers in that group to lean towards you. Everyone will follow. All right. So that's what it's really important to create that group, that following, that connection, because we all want to be part of something much bigger.
Yep.
Okay.
And I think a big thing, and just like in the growing industries and with technology and everything like that, like LinkedIn is such an important tool. And taking the time, like, I mean, COOs and CEOs are so busy in their schedules, but taking the time to be on that podcast or talking with a specific magazine or something like Leaders in Supply Chain, anything along those lines, it's those little extra steps when, most large companies are subscribing to those magazines, seeing somebody pop up, they go, oh, okay, so they're on here talking. So obviously they have something they should say. And it's from like they have the endorsement of this well-known source behind them.
Right.
That they start paying a little bit more attention rather than just a random flyer saying we're the best. But, somebody from higher up in the company taking the time to sit and talk about why they are the best, you immediately catch the attention. It's like, okay, they know everybody's busy. They took the time out of their day to really speak to what they're doing.
I like it. That makes so much sense. One of the things you got to look at is just that, because you brought up LinkedIn, is occasionally when there's something you read in LinkedIn that motivates you, that pushes you, that drives you in some way, don't just like it, but then add something, add a comment that starts a conversation, not just, I totally agree. Okay. Because that ends it. All right. That's the conclusion of the other person's post. So instead say, oh, that's really interesting. I liked how you did this. Can you explain that a little bit more? Get them to engage so there's a full on conversation. And people then are more apt to jump into that because they start seeing there's more activity in those certain areas. So I agree with you. LinkedIn for Business is an incredible community that it's important that we all as business people jump into. Okay. Now, when we get into the bacon, we're going to talk about observe and optimize everything. And this, of course, as we've talked about this in plenty of ways, is pay attention to all your surroundings and see what makes sense. Where are the connections? And once I learn something, what can I use that for? Okay. And there's probably no better example than Benjamin Franklin being so curious about electricity. And he wanted to know if lightning had the same electrical charge as what they understood how electricity worked, but they wanted to do that. And that's where the whole kite experiment came. And then I forget what the name of it is, but there's a jar that they were using as a capacitor. At that time, there was a jar that could store a little bit of electricity. And so that was at the end of his kite string. It wasn't like he was holding the string and just, ooh, that hurt. Okay. But what he did was he wanted to see, could he capture the electrical charge from lightning on the key blank way up there? The electrical charge comes down the string and into this jar, and he could capture and hold the electrical charge. All right. And just that. And because of that, and him paying attention to that, because he was really observing everything and wondering how it worked. And then this idea of optimize it, what can we do? He was the person who invented the lightning rod that is on every building. All right. Because he realized that was the thing that was destroying buildings. Right. And so what he did was he said, let's capture it and direct where that electrical charge goes. And he understood, drive it into the ground and away from the building. So it was just that epitome of paying attention, not only looking at things, but experimenting, checking things. When we send out emails to our customers, make sure that we do A/B testing. Test this versus this. Where is my best response and where can I move from there? How can I improve this? And based on the responses I get from my customers, what can I use that for? All right. And so Franklin was amazing at that. And he constantly did this on a regular basis. Okay. So in your jobs, is there anything that you can think of? Nate, I'll throw it to you first. Anything you can think of in your job, or Luke on your stage career, anything that you would say that you observe, and because of something you heard, saw, reacted to, that because of that you moved forward? Nate, anything for you?
I think just for me, it's like, it's not being the first one to speak in a room.
Oh, so strong.
And so it's like everybody wants to be heard. Everyone wants to have ideas and be seen as the smartest or the brightest, especially in startups and younger businesses where everybody's trying to prove themselves, and either they're new to the company and they're trying to prove, what their salary and, why they're there or anything like that. But sometimes it's just being back. And this is something that I've been working on and learning, because me, I never miss a chance to talk. But it's just been taking kind of that back seat. And so that then when I do speak or I do reply or I do bring an idea to the table, it is calculated. I've heard the opinions and the thoughts and kind of gauge where everybody's at. So when I make my pitch, it's with understanding what's going on around me and making it very targeted and informed, not just shooting from the hip.
Gotcha. How about Luke? You got anything to add to that one?
I've been shooting and editing a lot of reality video, which is video where I'm just shooting unscripted real people in certain situations. And I think what I've noticed is you can try to keep in all of the little clips that you personally think are funny or that land.
Right.
But it's never about that. It's about what clips tell the story.
Oh, that's much deeper.
Because you can keep in all those clips, but then it becomes long and it becomes a little unfocused. That's what I've noticed. There are, in my editing process, it's always put together all the clips you think are worth seeing, and then you have to run through it again to be okay, but what's necessary? And then at the end of that process is when you'll get a video that's worth showing to people.
Gotcha. Have you ever had a spot? I'm sorry, Nate, I cut you off. Have you ever had a spot, something where you were I love this, and then you were I got to cut this whole thing out, even though it's gold and I really like this, but I got to cut this off because it doesn't help the story
all the time. Yeah, completely.
Yeah. No, but I think that's great, especially if you're in the situation where you're trying to work on an elevator pitch, for example.
Yep.
Where you really want to get the story across, and you have, you are so wrapped up in your product and so sold on what you are trying to sell that you're you can do this and get to do this and get to do this. And you're, 3 minutes in and you haven't even described what you're selling yet. And so it's that idea of really honing in on what tells the story or what conveys your message clearly.
Yeah.
And being able to kind of just streamline it down to that is just such an important trait to have.
I like it. So one of the cool things, I'll give you a little pitch on elevator pitches that I believe when I talk to people about creating theirs, is I go end with the elevator pitch, but start with a stairway pitch, work your way to an escalator pitch, and then come back to the elevator. And what I mean by that is, imagine you're talking to somebody you really want to talk to, and you have a staircase, a long, multiple stairs you're walking. So in other words, it's a longer conversation, but you still have to get to the point. You have to cut to it because you don't want that person just walking off on any floor from you, right? So what you're doing is you write the long thing, brainstorm all the things you want to talk about, then make it as concise as possible on an escalator when I only have seconds, we're crossing each other. One person's going down and I'm going up. What can I say? What's the most important thing? What's the most important part of my message that I can share at that split second? All right. And once I have that done and I have all my beefy material, like Luke was saying, all the stuff that I'm going to cut stuff out, then and only then do you bring it together and you find the right words. It's not as long as what you would say on a staircase, and it's not as short as you'd say on an escalator. And that's how you perfect your elevator pitch. Yep. Okay. But you got to work from both ends. So I love that. All right. So we get into this. This is observe and optimize everything. So some of the things I want people, business people, to understand is sometimes we sit here going, I don't know what I'm supposed to measure. I don't know there's too many different things. So just for now, pick one KPI, one little thing, one metric that you want to cover, one thing that you want to measure to see if it works, and then tweak it accordingly. And then once you get used to that, find another thing, something else that you can measure. Just do one little thing. Okay. It's when you're asking for feedback, it's the same thing. It never hurts to just start. Ask one customer for feedback, then ask two customers, then ask 10, then ask 100. But find those things and see if there's any one little thing you can tweak, one little change. Because when we sit here and going, we got 100 different things, the customers are saying we should change all those, it's overwhelming. So instead, just optimize one thing at a time. All right. That's what's so important. All right. And so as we're coming to the end of the show here, the last letter is N, is nurture your network. And I think this is really important here. And I think we've even used the idea of nurturing your network on other shows with other people. But it's so important that no one man is an island, right? You are trusted more because of your allies. You have to create this community around you that trusts you, relies upon you. And so that continues to escalate you and elevate you to that high position. We go back to Benjamin Franklin, a guy with only 2 years of formal education, right? A guy who is self-taught in so many different things. He is, he created the Franklin stove, and I don't know why I brought it up now, but that was one of these things that he said, it's really cold in these places. People don't want to only just live by their fireplace. So he created this Franklin stove and did not patent it so that anyone could make it for themselves. Okay. So he was like one of these people really thinking of all of humanity. But the idea of nurturing that network was he had such a strong following, so many people who stood behind him and trusted him because he was a loving, caring person, that he was the one that the United States sent to France to negotiate for us. All right. And because of his eloquence, his understanding, and his charisma, that's when France ended up backing the United States at that pivotal time in our history. So that's what makes him such a famous person. He knew how to network. He knew about his brand. He knew what he was, what he could be, and he continued to strive to be the best version of themselves. Okay, so with that, I'm going to ask you this. If Ben Franklin was always doing this, always striving to be a better version of himself, all right, always trying to learn something and do something. So for me, you look at this. I love reading these small versions of the books, the little clip, like the cliff notes of books, just to get the information. And I love getting that information and then sharing it on the show here. I published 5 different books. I've got 2 patents under my name because I just have always lived the life of saying, if one person can do it, I can do it too. Okay. I always laugh because, Luke, you gave me the greatest compliment one day. And you said, Dad, you're the only one who could pretend to be a doctor and actually pull it off. Okay. So I love that. I'm not going to actually do that, but I love the compliment. So I want to ask you guys, what are you doing? What is something that the two of you are doing that you would say, I'm doing this to become the better version of myself? And I know I'm throwing you the curveball. You didn't expect this question, but I want to push you as your dad, as your papa. I want to make sure that I'm pushing you ever forward.
Every year, I participate in a particular internet art competition.
Okay.
It's not even really a competition per se, but it's just an activity. And I always try to do at least one piece where I have to do a lot of work on it.
Okay.
Just so because I've always liked drawing and I like to keep up a little bit of skill in it.
And I told you, I really like the style of your art. It's very different than mine, but you've got a cool style all your own. So I'm proud of you. Excellent. Nate, what about you? What's the one thing that makes you the better Nate today than you were yesterday?
I think just for me, I have just a constant desire for continuous improvement. I enter every single day trying to be a little bit better than the day before. So it's whatever I do, be it from human interaction to something I accomplished at work or anything like that. It's just for me, when I walk out of the office at the end of the day, I want to know that I either learned something or did something a little bit better than I did before. And so just being a sponge to everything around me, both as I work with my managers and my supervisors around me, learning from them on all different levels, be it something simple as I learned, how to do something with pivot tables and Excels, to learning from the way that my HR manager dealt with an employee's problem. But I want to try to always walk away from every single day with being slightly better or slightly more knowledgeable in something.
I love it.
It's just a push throughout the course of the day.
We've got to push ourselves. You know, we're not pushing ourselves. No one else is, right? So at the last couple of seconds of this show, we've been talking about Benjamin Franklin, this polymath, this guy who strived for knowledge, self-taught in so many different areas. And so you've got to hand it to him, because not only did he just learn this for himself, but he did so much to help the community. He was big about helping as many different people as possible. He just wanted to continue to invent, to write, to share these ideas. The ideas and the thoughts were bubbling out of him. This guy was so famous with just very little education. Even though he wasn't a president of the United States, which I always wonder why he wasn't. I don't know why he didn't run, but he was still considered one of the founding fathers of this country, one of the greatest men who brought us to where we're at today. So follow in his footsteps and go out of your way, become the best version of yourself, whether you are in sales or not, whether you're in marketing or not, whether you own your own business, whether you're a leader or not. You can always work hard to try to become the best version of yourself. I want to thank you guys all so very much for being here. I thank you to my boys. Thank you guys. All right, for being on the show. This has been about Bacon Bits. This is Bacon Bits with Master Happiness. We've been talking about Ben Franklin. Tune in next week. And if you missed any of today's show, tune in later in this week to Bacon Bits with Master Happiness, anywhere you listen to podcasts. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful, wonderful night.
Have a great night.